Welcome to the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast, where we celebrate the craft of poetry. Each week, we feature interviews with incredible poets and artists, including Olivia Gatwood and A.E. Stallings, and original poetry read by the authors. I'm your host, James Moorhead, Poet Laureate of Dublin, California, and author of Canvas and Portraits of Red and Gray. Ruchi Acharya is a founder and editor-in-chief of Wingless Dreamer, a global platform for those passionate about writing, art, and design, a space where authors and artists are free to express themselves. Ruchi is an Oxford University summer graduate in English literature. She has been a contributor to multiple journals, the Pangolin Review, Muddy River Poetry, Borderless Journal, and Mulberry Literary Review, among 50 others. Ruchi, welcome to the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast, all the way from India.
Hello, thank you so much, James, for inviting me.
So describe Wingless Dreamer for listeners hearing about the organization you've created for the first time.
Well, so my story is I never got the right support to become a writer at the prime youth of my life. The place where I come from, writing is considered as a cute hobby instead of a passion, a commitment that writers made to themselves. Writers don't receive the same respect that other professions do. So it's quite condescending, right? So that sort of mentality is also harmful to amateur writers' confidence. So from my past experience, I realized that this issue needs to be addressed. Um, People need to understand that writing is a hard business. It is time consuming, and after dedicating late night hours, a roller coaster of emotions, finally a writer they produce a piece of literary work that might be read around the globe. So I come up with this publishing company. We envisioned a community where writers and artists would be invited solely based on their merit of their writing and creative skills. Wingless Dreamer connects all the essence of writing, illustrating, editing, marketing, and promoting all on a single platform so that authors and artists they don't have to go through the hardship of the publishing processes and focus only on their work. Not only that, the community members are also guided, supported, and encouraged on every single step they make towards their writing career. Unlike traditional publishing companies in Wingless Dreamer, you can get access to free critiques, reviews, and promotions, and in some cases, funding for their work. So yeah, that's pretty much proud of it.
So what's your earliest memory of writing poetry?
Well, my earliest memory was when I was 14 years old. Um, that time, I lost someone, and I didn't have anyone around me apart from a pen and paper. So that was the first time when I wrote a song, actually. So I'm not a good singer, but that was my first time when I literally write something on piece of paper, describing my emotions and connecting my sentiments and expressing myself. So ever since then, pen and paper are my best friends.
Terrific. So what's your approach to writing now? Do you have a set routine?
Well, right now, actually, I'm juggling between two jobs. I work as a full-time business analyst to pay my bills. So, yeah, it's quite a struggle to life. But no, I definitely take out time for writing poems because it gives me immense pleasure. I do take out time mostly at nights or after my work is, or whenever I'm feeling like. Sometimes I just shut my laptop and yeah, let's do some poetry. Just take a glass of wine and sit down and just write whatever I want to write about.
So because of Wingless Dreamer, you and your team read and review hundreds of unpublished works. How do you make the difficult choices between what is selected to be published and what is declined?
Well, that's a good question because extremely gets difficult at times, you know. But me and my editors, like we work online and we there are certain criteria in order to judge poetry, like based on the structure, based on the literary devices, or the imagery and the uh, like the poet's point of view, what he or she is trying to tell. So depending upon that, we all shortlisted among all these hundred of submissions, and try to come together with our final entries and try to discuss it one by one and make a decision.
Cool. So, as a published poet yourself, you've also inevitably had many poems rejected. How have those experiences as a writer informed your approach as an editor and publisher?
Well, it plays a great influence since judging writers' work, you have to be a writer by yourself first. So I, of course, went through the same experience like any other writer or poet have been. The curiosity, like to enter into a contest, the curiosity to manage the theme, manage articulate your poem according to the theme, and the suspense of the results and everything all together. It's quite interesting and intriguing at the same time. So it's very important for an editor to understand this essence of poetry writing. And definitely, I can understand every time I read a submission. So I make sure I'm giving my complete time to it, because the writer from the other end, he or she might be expecting good news by the end of the day. So even like I don't discard it, even if it is irrelevant to theme. I try to even take an effort to look at that. Is it you know does it fit to our other theme contest or general publishing contest and stuff? Or if there are some grammatical mistakes or some corrections, then I do send it back for reviewing or editing. So we don't generally just discard it. No, we try to give it second chances. We believe in second chances, and we try to encourage and boost up writers' motivation as much as we can.
Terrific. That's really refreshing. So I've been impressed at the high quality of Wingless Dreamer anthologies and how quickly the art and poetry are edited into books. What have you learned about the publishing industry since founding Wingless Dreamer, when typically in publishing everything's measured in years, not days or weeks?
Yeah, well, I founded this community back in 2019. And trust me, it was not as glorious as it seems now. It developed over time. Earlier, it was just a travel log. I used to write my travel articles. And slowly, new ideas came in, and the site started developing. And eventually, now it is in front of you, the publishing company. So basically, uh, as you said that it's quite challenging because we work online. It's hard to manage online at the same time. So we try to we try to come up every month. We try to come up with different themes, with different aesthetic of contest. How are we going to do it? And eventually my team is full of creative people. So I don't know how, but successfully we were able to achieve the highest standard of publishing, and things just started rolling out basically.
Cool. So, what role, you've already touched on this a little bit, but maybe dig in a little deeper. What role do you see poetry playing in the world today?
I think poetry plays a very important role in today's world. We are living, we all are corporate hamsters. We have built this life where it's all about concrete and classes, and it's like a power. But what about sentiments? What about emotions? What about expressing yourself to the world out there? This is something we live for. We earn to live a beautiful life, to feel comfortable with our beloved ones or with our friends, or try to gain recognition and appreciation from the society. So I personally think that poetry does open that door for us, for writers, or for anybody who you doesn't necessarily have to follow the rules and structure of the poem. You can always go for free verse poetry or whatever you feel like. Just write about it. So I think It's very important. Like I said, like being a business analyst, it's quite tough. So, writing poetry is one of the major source of happiness in my life right now. So I do definitely take out time and encourage my friends as well to give a shot at poetry writing. So yeah.
So you brought 2 poems to read. I'm gonna hand the mic over to you to share your poetry.
Oh mother, oh father, feeling trapped in the system and heat from the burning pyres, beautiful lives come to an end. Lost sights, cute bodies wait for their turn, like helpless wanderers. Another cries, oh mother, oh father, wading through submerged hearts at the crematorium, wet fodder exhausted over gloomy tombs. Their names will grow obscure and wither away, will stay remembering their light, ours has long gone. Don't jest with one's fresh wounds. Strip away your pride, you filthy leaders. Take away their crown, melt them down. The dead won't return. And another cries, oh mother, oh father. Bloody urns and goblets of ashes, agony trapped in inescapable thraldom. Mourning streaks the silent streets. Death is dark and final. Bones and muscles may shower, but one day the sun will rise behind coal smoked clouds. Embrace this life. Our country still thrives. We've got every reason to be afraid, but we never run from a fight. Hold on, dandelion. The wind is hoarse. We won't give up easily. We will fight until the end. In shrieking air, our lungs will learn to breathe. Don't give up. One day, the roses of hope will grow, meeting the horizon, roses that even plucked will not die, but will bloom and bloom every single day that passes by. My dream lighthouse. You may see me, but I'm not here. I come into a sight, the sight of a lighthouse, guiding lost boats to the old harbor. I hope to make it through the dark in this twilight hour full of thunderstorms. Amidst the roar, I row to meet the lighthouse keeper, for his memories have anchored my soul. Storm is raging and waves are swell and ebb, the sea touching the sky, my bones freezing, shivering in the chilly air. I'm terrified. My heart is struggling to fight against the ocean blue, but I have this strange wilderness inside. I want to fall into his arms into this night. In this watery voyage, I row my boat towards the lighthouse. We are not all in the same boat, so I cannot expect you to understand. The grief I have been carrying inside me for years is heavier than 6 hours of rowing these paddles. I witnessed the force of the sea, one never dreamt of even in reveries, and the last I will ever see of the lighthouse is sketched into the eternity of my eyes. Oh, pray tell, my stars, is love forbidden? Why am I lost in foggy sea of hopelessness? Death lies in wait under reefs. You may see me, but I'm not here.
Oh, it's beautiful hearing you read those poems, and for those listening, the links to both poems will be in the show notes. So the poem "O Mother, O Father" immediately brought to mind the tragic impact of the COVID pandemic on India, the images of open air crematoriums. How does writing poetry help you work through grief?
Well, it helps a lot. It helps a lot. I remember like I wrote this poem back in the month of April when I recently moved from Scotland to India. Already it was challenging situation from moving from one country to another. And, coming back to India and seeing all these, it was quite devastating on seeing the state of the nation. I remember in the earlier days when I moved to Chennai, there was not a single hour when I didn't hear the sirens of emergency services passing by from early morning till late night. It was something that I would have never nobody would have ever imagined in their reveries. By seeing the desperation, helplessness, and hopelessness of my people, I feel trapped in the system, just like anyone else, and unable to do anything about it. So I wrote this poem out of despair. Through this poem, as you can see, I try to show how national tragedy can become strength, unity, and patriotism when people overcome from violence and adversity in the most striking and unexpected ways. So poetry does helps a lot in certain situations. Yeah,
So, and building on that, so both poems have themes of loss and hope. Do you find that poetry not only helps you find hope in the darkest moments, but helps others based on the feedback you've gotten to people who've read your poems?
so definitely, definitely. I think poetry it somehow narrates back to you. It talks to you. It comforts you. It has the power to provide a comfort, a secure boundaries when a reader is reading that particular poem, or even if a poet is or a person is trying to write a poem. I think with the help of poetry, we can always seek comfort and find our secure boundaries where we can um, we can express our grief or our sadness or gloominess through by using these beautiful words um, or different poetic devices and stuff. So yeah, poetry does help people a lot to a great extent.
And how do you balance being truthful to whatever you experienced and also creating a piece of beautiful poetry? And I've found at least sometimes to achieve the beautiful poetry, I sometimes have to, massage the truth a little bit and make it not exactly what I experienced because at the end of the day, it has to be a great poem. What's your experience with that balance between the truth that you remember and the poetry you're trying to create?
Well, that's a wonderful question. Um, well, it's quite challenging, of course, but I think like if basically emotions and sentiments drive me to write a poem. So it doesn't matter whether I don't care about whether is it coming with a good vocabulary, whether it is under the poetic structure or not. First, I just jot down what I want to write, what I want to express myself for. Like I just jot down all my feelings out in the piece of paper, and then I start restructuring it. Uh, use and try to use literary devices where I can fit it, but I never try to force my poem to for people's expectations or for society norms. It can, like I said, free verse is the best form of writing, so you can always write it down. But the authenticity, the aesthetic, the main purpose of writing poetry, it should never, it should never be ignored or just for the sake, like of winning a particular competition or just to please others. No, the originality must be there. So yeah.
And so, just a couple more questions. What's your approach to revising and editing poetry and deciding, okay, this poem is ready to be for the world to see it or for it to be submitted or to be shared at an open mic? When do you kind of know that a poem is ready and what's your process to get there?
Well, I try to read once, twice, thrice. I try to read as many as time as possible, and trust me, there is this little trick. Don't try to read it in one go. Like tonight, okay, just read it. Okay, you may find some grammatical mistakes or something is not fitting or it doesn't sound, it's not rhythmic, it doesn't sound perfect. All right, so correct it. That's it. Next time when you read, then it should be some other day, next day, tomorrow, or you know, and then again. With every time you come back to your poem, with every time you come with a new perspective, and every time you will find there might be some errors or something is not perfect, like every time you recorrect it, so there will be one point when you will realize that, oh, it does sound perfect. I think I did a great job. I think the poem is complete, and it will come, like you will know, you will get to know eventually. So that is one of my small tricks, like I do. Yeah.
finally, what is next for Wingless Dreamer? What's your dream next states of evolution of Wingless Dreamer?
Well, so far we have helped and published like around more than like 2,000 writers. So I want to do same like many people approach to me. Many of our writers are like artists as well. So I have, with God grace, I got this platform where I can voice artists where I can enhance artist voice. So maybe we are planning to introduce contest and publication for artists and try to give them opportunities. Even it could be as small as like designing our book covers and stuff like that. So yeah, I really want to do something for artists as well. So definitely we are going forward with that plan.
Well, thank you, Ruchi, for sharing your story and your beautiful poetry on the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast.
Thank you so much, James.
The Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast is written and produced by James Moorhead. You can follow me on Twitter at Dublin Ranch, subscribe to the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast, and follow us on viewlesswings.com or on Instagram at viewlesswings.